There we go. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. All right, we'll give another minute just in case someone's coming in late, because according to my computer, it's exactly 7 o'clock.
Yep.
And we don't necessarily want to do this totally on Jewish time, which is really
We have
late.
to do it on Jewish time.
Actually, I knew someone who scheduled, the rabbi scheduled the wedding and told people to be there a half hour before they actually planned to do the wedding, and someone still came in late. So that was sort of kind of amazing. Okay. All right, so we're 7:01. I think we probably have everybody who is here. So I'm going to tell a story. It's funny because I was set up this marvelous book, and I was looking through and trying to decide because 2 of them jumped out, and then I looked at something else and said, oh, no, this one has to be. And it's probably a story that you've heard different versions of, because there are like lots of different versions where things, but I happen to particularly like this one because I can get to make a little kid's faces when I do it, and that's fun. Oops. Oh, we got Roz back. Okay, good. We haven't started the story yet. We are just starting the story, Roz. This story is called The Crack in the Diamond. So a lot of you can already say in your head, wait, I've heard versions of this, but this is a slightly different one. So there was a king who would sit on his throne and look at the diamond on his finger. He would hold his hands all different kind of ways because a light would glimmer through it. It was big, beautiful, perfect, most precious diamond in the kingdom. Now, there was only one thing more precious to the king than that diamond, and that was his little son, the little prince who would come and sit on his daddy's lap and watch when he would do things for the kingdom. And one day when the boy was sitting in the lap, he was looking at his father's ring, and he said, oh, ring, Daddy, I want to wear the ring. And his father said, oh, no, this is not a toy. You can't play with this ring. But the little boy said, oh, but please, Daddy, please. And the king took off his crown and said, well, how about, you can play with my crown. And the little kid said, no crown, don't want the crown. The king said, please, don't be sad. I'll give you any other thing that you want, but you can't just take the ring. The little boy started to cry, but I want the ring. But the father said, we have to be careful of the ring. It can be damaged so easily. The little boy said, I'd be careful. I'd be very careful. And the father didn't know whether to laugh or cajole the boy with that when all of a sudden his son grabs the ring off of his finger and takes off and starts saying, I have a ring, my ring. Well, there's no point in really totally telling you what happens because you can figure it out, especially when a very, very sad looking little boy walked back and handed the ring to his father. And what had happened to the ring? There was a crack in that perfect, precious ring. Now, what do? You can't fix a diamond like you can a broken plate, right? You can't just glue it together. And if you're a king, especially a lot of kings, you can't have a diamond that you wear that's imperfect. It has to be totally perfect. So for most of us, we'd say, oh, there's nothing we can do. I guess the ring is lost. But we're not kings. So the king said, this ring will have to be fixed. Call in the royal jewelers. The royal jewelers came in and said, oh, yes, what a beautiful ring. Oh, no, that crack. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. It's ruined. And jeweler after jeweler. And the king sent his soldiers out to any kind of jeweler that they could find in the kingdom. And each came back and looked at the ring and said, oh, it's beautiful. What? Oh, but no, that crack, there's nothing we can do. So one day the king's soldiers were still looking, and they went down into this little teeny part of the city where the castle was in, and an alley in a very small little shop that was a jeweler's shop. And they went in and they knocked on the door. And they said, it's probably not worth it. Well, said, we better be careful, the other one said, because we don't want the king to find out that we didn't ask everybody. So they tell the jeweler about it and that, and he says, "Oh, that's no problem. There's no problem that can't be fixed. I can fix the ring." And the one soldier says to the other, "This guy thinks he can fix the ring. Nobody else has been able to do it." "Well," said the other one, "but the king told us to bring back anybody that we possibly could, so we better bring him back to the castle." So they brought him back to the castle and brought him into the king. And one of them says, "Should we just, like throw him in jail now? He's never going to be able to do anything." And the king said, "No, we have to give him a chance." So the soldiers figured, yeah, what's the point? But they took him to a room, and the jeweler closed himself in and started doing whatever it was in there, because the soldiers were standing outside thinking, he's not going to be able to do anything. And a day went by, and a night went by, and part of the next day, and the one soldier says to the other again, "Should we just go in? He must be just wasting time." And this one, "Well, let's just wait to see what happens." When all of a sudden, the jeweler comes out holding a box and says, "It's fixed. The problem's done. It's better than it was before." And the soldiers look at each other and say, "This is ridiculous. But hey, let's take him back, and then we'll let the king deal with him." So the jeweler comes in and he hands the box to the king, and he says, "The box is perfect." And the king, of course, is kind of hesitant. He doesn't think what it is. And his little son walks into the room and says, "Oh, is that my ring? Was that my ring?" And the father says, "Wait a minute. No. But before he can do anything, the son grabs the box out of his hand and starts running across the room and opens the box. And the father is starting to chase him. And the boy says, "Oh, Daddy, flower! It's my flower. Look, it's my flower." And the king goes over and takes the ring from his son's hand, and he looks at it and sees that the most beautiful rose has been etched into it. This beautiful, perfect, gorgeous rose that looks so alive. And that ugly crack had been turned into the stem of the rose. So that the rose, the jeweler said, "That's what I told you. There's no problem that can't be fixed, but it all depends on how you look at it." So the jeweler, of course, took something that was an ugly crack, and if he wanted to say that it was always an ugly crack, but no, he made it into something else. So sometimes our problems, if we look at them from a different point of view, we can find solutions. We won't have the same ring that we had before, the same diamond, but we may have a diamond or something that is just as precious in its own way. So that is my story for tonight. Actually, I've said that thing with something else long before I knew this story. I was having a conversation with someone in my office who was on a restricted diet, and I had been on some of them. And I had said to her something about one thing that I had learned was, because you get food that substitutes for something else, is not to say, does it taste like the food that it's a substitute for, but does it taste good? If you're eating good food, then we don't have to worry about that. It's sort of a different way of looking at the problem. So anyway, I know you've all heard various versions of that, but this was, I like the little boy who sort of is part of this whole story. All right, I am going to put, where are we here? Chat, there we go. And I have got the Havdalah blessings in there. Let's bring our parts for this. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen. Die die da 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 die 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 da 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 die 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 da 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 die die da 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim. Borei minei v'samim. Die die da 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 die 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 da 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 die 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 da 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 die die da da da. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei me'orei ha'esh. Borei me'orei ha'esh. Die die da 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 die 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 da 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 die 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 da 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 die die da 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshek ben yom hashvi'i l'sheshet tameh hamaseh. Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. And as we finish saying goodbye to the Sabbath, we put our candles out. The sizzling sound. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishvi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera v'amenu, Yavo Aleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David. And you can unmute yourself and join with me with Shavua Tov and sing loud and drown me all out. Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov,
Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, a good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase.
So Shavua Tov, everyone, as we close this out, we've got next week is the Shabbat before Purim. So we will be having a Purim story next week.
Nice.
Actually, I'm excited. I already had asked Rabbi Barbara that if she was back doing things that when we got towards Passover, I had a great Passover story. So even if she starts telling us the rest of it, then we will, that one, it was one that I wanted to share. So we're going to get Facebook now. Thank you, Evan. I hope to see the folks on Facebook again next week.